Brad Pitt is 61 years old and reportedly trying for a baby with his 32-year-old girlfriend. Let that sink in for a second. 61. The man has 6 kids he barely sees because of an 8-year divorce war with Angelina Jolie that just ended. He's still fighting Angelina in court over a winery, and his response to all of that? Start over with a woman 3 decades younger and try to have another kid. If you think that's the behavior of someone who's learned from their mistakes, buckle up, because Brad Pitt's entire romantic history is a 40-year pattern of meeting women on movie sets, getting bored, and jumping to the next one without ever looking in a mirror. He fumbled Gwyneth Paltrow. He destroyed Jennifer Aniston. He crashed and burned with Angelina Jolie so spectacularly it became a $350 million legal nightmare. And now, he's doing it all over again. His pattern starts early, and it starts weird. In 1990, Brad meets Juliette Lewis on the set of a TV movie called Too Young to Die. The title should have been a warning, because Juliette was 16 and Brad was 26. Yes, you heard that right. 26 years old dating a 16-year-old. They claim nothing happened until she turned 17, which sure, Brad, thanks for waiting that extra year. That makes it so much better. They date for a few years, she's a literal teenager navigating a relationship with a man a decade older, and then shocker, he moves on. But don't worry, he's already locked onto his next target. Enter Gwyneth Paltrow in 1994. They meet on the set of Seven, and suddenly Brad is head over heels. Gwyneth is obsessed. She's matching hairstyles with him, gushing in interviews, calling him her soulmate. They get engaged. Like ring, wedding planning, the whole thing. And then Brad just calls it off. No dramatic reason, no big blow-up. Gwyneth later said she was devastated, but Brad just moves right along to his next relationship. Brad and Jennifer Aniston met in 1998 through their managers on a blind date. Finally, not a movie set romance. The media certainly thought so. Brad and Jen became America's golden couple. They got married in 2000 with a wedding that cost $1 million, fireworks, a gospel choir, a $50,000 cake. They were on every magazine cover. Everyone said they were relationship goals. For 5 whole years, it looked perfect. Jennifer was supportive, loving, and by every account, a dream partner. And then Brad signed on to film Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Angelina Jolie. And just like that, we were right back to the movie set pattern. By January 2005, Brad and Jennifer announced their separation. 2 months later, Jennifer filed for divorce. And Brad and Angelina swore up and down that nothing happened during filming. They fell in love on set, sure, but they didn't act on it until after the divorce. That's the story they sold. But here's the thing. You're telling me you spent months filming love scenes with Angelina Jolie, doing press tours together, staring into each other's eyes for 12 hours a day on set, but you definitely waited until the paperwork was signed to make a move? The timeline is so suspicious, it might as well be wearing a ski mask. And just to twist the knife a little deeper, a few months after the divorce announcement, Brad and Angelina do a photo shoot for W magazine where they play a married couple with kids. Jennifer had to watch her ex-husband playing house with his new girlfriend in a glossy magazine spread while her actual marriage was being torn apart in public. The disrespect is absolutely unhinged. Brad really looked at the situation and said, "Let me make this as humiliating as possible for my ex-wife." So classy. But it gets worse, because Brad later did an interview where he said his marriage to Jennifer felt like he was pretending it was something it wasn't. He said he wasn't living an interesting life. Let me repeat that. Brad Pitt was married to Jennifer Aniston, living in a mansion, making millions of dollars, married to one of the most beloved women in America, and he was bored. The audacity is breathtaking. Meanwhile, guys like George Clooney and Matt Damon figured out how to stay married and be happy. George met Amal and settled down. Matt Damon's been with the same woman since 2005. Brad's own contemporaries make him look pathetic by comparison, but Jennifer, she could have destroyed him. She could have done tell-all interviews. She could have dragged him through every tabloid in existence, but she didn't. She handled it with grace and moved on like the class act she is. Brad was already knee-deep in his next relationship, like a man running from a burning building he set on fire himself. So now it's Brad and Angelina. Brangelina. They adopt kids, have biological kids, 6 total. In 2014, they finally got married at their French chateau. 2 years later, Angelina files for divorce. But this isn't just any divorce. This is an 8-year legal nightmare complete with abuse allegations, custody battles, and enough drama to fill a telenovela. During the proceedings, Angelina accused Brad of being physically and emotionally abusive to her and the children during a private jet flight in 2016. She said that incident was the reason she filed for divorce. Brad's team denied it. But here's the thing. Whether you believe the allegations or not, the fact that a divorce took 8 years and ended with those kinds of accusations tells you everything you need to know about how toxic that relationship became. The fairy tale was over, and what was left behind was a war zone. The divorce didn't finalize until December 2024. 8 years. Let that number sit with you for a minute. 8 years of legal warfare. Most people can finish 2 college degrees in that time. Brad and Angelina spent it fighting in court. But even that wasn't the end, because they're still battling over Chateau Miraval, their French winery. And this is where Brad's pettiness reaches absolutely legendary levels. Brad sued Angelina for selling her share of the winery without his approval. Angelina's team fired back, accusing Brad of looting the winery's assets and wasting money on personal projects. Court documents claim he spent over $1 million on renovations for a swimming pool that only he uses. He spent $1 million on a pool for himself while fighting his ex-wife over a winery. Angelina's lawyers literally said in their filing that Pitt is an actor, not a winemaker. He deals in illusions, not dirt and grapes. The lawsuit is seeking $350 million in damages, and it's still ongoing. So let's just recap this for a second. Brad left Jennifer Aniston, a woman who by every account was supportive and loving, because he claimed he was living an uninteresting life. Then he got with Angelina, had 6 kids with her, and that relationship ended in abuse allegations, an 8-year divorce, and a $350 million winery lawsuit where his ex-wife's lawyers are calling him out for building fancy pools with company money. At what point do we stop calling this bad luck and start calling it a pattern? Because here's the thing, Brad Pitt has never been single. Not really. He jumps from one woman to the next like he's playing relationship hopscotch, Juliette to Gwyneth, Gwyneth to Jennifer, Jennifer to Angelina. Almost every transition happens on or around a movie set. Every single time, he swears this one is different. Every single time, he gets bored and moves on. Every woman Brad's been with had to deal with the wreckage. Juliette was a teenager. Gwyneth got her heart broken after an engagement. Jennifer became tabloid fodder for years. Angelina spent 8 years in court with abuse allegations playing out in public. Real women whose lives got turned upside down because Brad couldn't commit to anything except his next co-star. And the worst part? Brad Pitt has faced basically 0 consequences. His career is fine. He's still getting major roles. He won an Oscar for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 2020. He's still considered a Hollywood icon. He's still making millions. The women he's left, they've had to rebuild while being scrutinized, judged, and dragged through the media. The double standard is insane. Which brings us to 2025 and Ines de Ramon. Brad is 61, Ines is 32. They've been dating since late 2022, right around the time his divorce from Angelina was finally wrapping up. Notice the pattern? He doesn't wait. He doesn't take time to be alone, he just moves directly from one relationship into the next. And now, according to reports, they've moved into an $18 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills and are actively trying for a baby. Sources say they're preparing a nursery. Brad's apparently thrilled. He's reportedly told friends that Ines is his rock and that this relationship feels different. Where have we heard that before? Oh, right, with literally every other woman he's been with. But sure, Brad, this time, it's real. This time, the woman who's young enough to be your daughter and met you right as your last relationship was imploding is definitely the one. And starting a whole new family at 61 when you've got 6 kids you barely see because of the disaster you created with their mother, that's not growth. That's running away from the mess you made and pretending you can start fresh without dealing with any of it. It's the same pattern, just with worse knees and more money. Here's the bottom line. Brad Pitt is a talented actor. He's won an Oscar. He's been in iconic films. But his personal life is a disaster entirely of his own making. He had Jennifer Aniston and threw it away because he was bored. He had Angelina Jolie, and that ended in an 8-year legal nightmare. He's left a trail of broken engagements, broken hearts, and broken families in his wake. And the only common denominator in all of it is him. Brad Pitt destroyed every relationship he ever had, not because of bad timing, not because the women weren't right, not because of bad luck, but because Brad Pitt is fundamentally incapable of doing the work that real relationships require. He'd rather chase the next shiny thing than sit still long enough to figure out why he keeps repeating the same mistakes. And now, at 61, instead of finally dealing with his issues, he's trying to have another baby with a woman 30 years younger. That's not romantic. That's pathetic. Brad Pitt isn't a hopeless romantic. He's a 61-year-old man who's been running from himself for 40 years and is still convinced the next relationship will fix him. Spoiler alert, Brad. It won't. The problem was never them. It was always you. If you want more celebrity takedowns like this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me which celebrity you want exposed next, because Brad's not the only one with skeletons in the closet, and you definitely don't want to miss what's coming.